This episode,
we serve up a supersonic Fab Fact.
There's a massive Gerry Anderson giveaway.
Chris has a run-in with a fanged fiend.
And John Glen gives us his very own exclusive Fab Fact.
That's all coming up in Pod 64
of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get started.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Jamie.
Yes, Richard James?
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Well, it just turns out we're 64 today and I'm very much in need of you, as always. So, yes.
Here we are, the Gerry Anderson Podcast, Pod 64. And they said it wouldn't last. It still might not.
Well, at some point it will stop lasting, but not for a little while at least, I hope.
Not quite yet. Yes.
I mean, I definitely want to get well into triple figures.
Well, that'll be fun, yeah. There's no reason why we can't do that.
It's not going to be long, Richard.
No, I know.
I mean, it's going to be 36 weeks, isn't it?
I suppose it would be, yes. I suppose we ought to introduce ourselves. I'm Jamie Anderson. You are?
Cardinal Richard James.
We're here for the next hour and a half with the Gerry Anderson Podcast. It's all your Gerry Anderson stuff in one place, really. News, reviews, features, quizzes, listeners' emails, Fab Facts, Quickfire Fives, Chris Dale's amazing Randomiser. It's all in there. And, of course, part 2, Jamie?
I was going to say, don't forget the hilarious banter and jokes.
Oh, banter and jokes, sorry.
And obviously, if someone's a first-time listener, Richard was joking there about who we are because I'm actually Jamie Anderson, he's actually Richard James.
Yes.
Anyway, yes, the interview this week is part 2 of the interview with James Bond director and Space Precinct director, John Glen. And in this week, we're actually finally going to get to the point where he gives us this exclusive Fab Fact that takes his Gerry Anderson connection to further back than we ever thought.
Well, that is extraordinary. I'm looking forward to that, even though I know what it is. Still looking forward to it.
But it is cool, isn't it? Because you haven't actually heard him say it.
No, I haven't heard it from his mouth. That's
and
right.
It was a lovely moment when I was like, John, I don't think anybody knows that.
That's right.
I had no idea.
Yes.
So there you go. All that stuff that Richard's already said, plus the John Glen thing to look forward to.
And of course you must get in touch with us, please, because we wouldn't be here without you, our dear listeners. So do email us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. You can hashtag us on Twitter, hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast. You can tag him, I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard N. James. You can even go to facebook.com/groups/podsterons and join our very own listeners Facebook group. And you can, of course, subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on, rate us, review us, and share us with your friends so they get to hear us too.
What a pro you are, Richard James.
Right up front.
Yeah, said all those things almost in one breath. And don't forget, the fire exits are just there and here.
Exactly. And could the owner of a Vauxhall Astra C134ZX5 please move it from the fire escape as you are blocking the entrance? There we are. Done. And we'll be calling the raffle at 3:30.
Brilliant. Done. Now, Richard, you mentioned a raffle. Now, there is a big giveaway going on, which we're going to cover in the news, but it is massive. It's the biggest Gerry Anderson giveaway we have ever done. And in fact, you might even be listening to this podcast because of the giveaway.
Right.
More in the news, but there's over £1,000 worth of Gerry Anderson prizes to be won, plus gift cards and all sorts of other goodies.
Amazing.
And
cool.
I'm very excited about it. It's running all the way through September.
Right.
So don't miss out on that. But listen into the news for further instructions.
How exciting. Just gets better and better, doesn't it? Giveaways.
Well, it was getting better and better, Richard. It was getting better and better, but I'm about to spoil it all with some Fab Facts.
Here we go.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Oh, great.
Well, it's Richard's favourite, as you can hear by his jolly, smiley tones. It's certainly my favourite. If you're new to Fab Facts, then I've got a book of Fab Facts. I'm going to flick through it. Richard is willingly going to shout Fab at a random point. I shall read you out a fact and we shall discuss it, debunk it, blah, 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 blah.
Yes, great.
Something like that.
Yes, more likely blah, 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 I should think.
Probably is, especially because we have been doing this for a number of weeks now, and we're a bit thin on the ground for Fab Facts.
Yes, that's true.
So let's see how we do, Richard.
Fingers crossed.
Here is the book. Are you ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Then here we go.
Fab!
Right. We have stopped on the spread of page 42 and 43 in the official book of Fab Facts. And I'm going with the first fact on page 43 this week.
Okay.
Which is as follows. The designers of Concorde claimed to be avid fans of Thunderbirds when it was first screened. And when Concorde was rolled out at Toulouse in France, it was greeted by the band of the Royal Marines playing the Thunderbirds March.
No.
Now, I think that's pretty cool.
It really is.
And because we're always talking about the way that the Gerry Anderson shows inspire inventors, creators, scientists, filmmakers, people all over the world, perhaps living beings further out into the universe.
By now,
I didn't mean to say living beings.
Yeah,
it sounded a bit like
living
living beings.
Yeah.
Let's stick with living beings because that might be an alien race that we may come across in the future.
Yeah. Maybe.
Probably not.
Very broad, apparently.
Yeah, forget that. Anyway, we're always talking about how Anderson stuff inspires people, and here is a time period where the inspiration is very, very quick indeed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Thunderbirds made Concorde, inventors actually create the thing.
Yeah.
But it must have been inspiring them and getting their creative and scientific juices flowing while Concorde was being developed. And to have the Thunderbirds March being played as it's rolled out for the first time
extraordinary.
In 1967, I think, was Concorde's first flight.
69, I thought, but you might be right.
Oh.
You might be right,
Well,
Jamie.
do you know who's going to correct us?
Chris
Our
Dale.
lovely Podstrons. Well, and Chris Dale, yes. If you have any information about the first rollout of Concorde, please email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk or concorde@gerryanderson.co.uk. That's fine, I'll probably get that too.
Right, okay.
We'll have to find out. So there you go. A short, sharp and supersonic Fab fact there.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Also, it really ties into that thing of things appearing in shows and then appearing in real life. A decade or so later, rather like, Kirk's famous communicator from Star Trek actually being the model for the flip mobile phones and they came out in the late 80s, early 90s. Well, in Space Precinct, we have the iPad, of course. There are several episodes where they have Tarns, who are the mind readers, who were sort of identikit creators. They would read your mind and create a picture of your assailant, your attacker, and it would appear on this sort of pad as they swipe their fingers over
Etch-a-sketch.
Etch-a-sketch, essentially. But an iPad, to all intents and purposes. There we are.
Yeah.
Back in 1994.
Amazing.
So I like to think of myself as something of a trailblazer as well. You see?
That's your middle name, isn't it? Oh, no, it begins with an N.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it happened all the time.
Yeah.
So smartwatches and Skyping, essentially, with video phones and Gerry Anderson shows. It happened everywhere. Yeah.
It is like a sort of feedback loop, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah. And I guess you get something like Fireflash.
Yeah.
Supersonic transporter in Thunderbirds in 1965, although ill-fated. And then just a few years later, Concorde comes out.
Yes, certainly something in the air, wasn't there?
Yeah, very much so. And continues to be, I'm sure.
Well, that's just the way I'm sitting.
I've just been watching Elon Musk's videos of, what's it called? What's the little hopper called?
Yes, I don't know.
What it's called.
I know, I saw the video.
Yeah. Anyway, that thing, which is so Anderson, and we know that he watched Space 1999 and was a big fan of it, so it continues still today. Yeah. And maybe, just maybe, when one of these things launches, there'll be a band playing the Space 1999 theme.
Yes, imagine. That'd be amazing.
With the electric guitar.
Yes.
Who plays electric guitar that's famous? Dave Grohl or someone?
Right, okay.
Yeah, maybe him playing it. Just a request. If you're listening, Elon Musk, then please...
Or Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
You never know.
Either of them. Yeah. Both of them. Anyway, Richard, I think that sort of brings us to the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, that's the end then of this week's...
Supersonic
Fact! Oh, that was difficult.
Powerful, wasn't it? We got there, though.
We did.
Very good. Oh, I like that one. That's very nice. I do like that.
I'm going to go and look up the footage, see if there's anything actually online. I bet there is. Yeah. British Pathé or one of those kind of archive things somewhere.
Yeah, great. Yes, well, you are listening still, we hope, to the Gerry Anderson podcast.
If we didn't put them off with that
fact. Don't forget, a little later on, of course, we have Chris Dale's Randomiser, whereby he sits down in front of a random Gerry Anderson episode and talks us through it and gives us his thoughts and comments. So we know that's a favourite part of the podcast for you. Listeners have been emailing in their droves to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. So we'll be having the voice of the Podstrons shortly. What else is there? Of course, it's Quick Fire 5, Jamie. Are you ready for these? Now,
if I must be.
I've got quite a smorgasbord of Quick Fire 5s for you this week. So, ready for these? Alliterative character names, Tex Tucker or Mike Mercury?
Tex Tucker.
Favourite guest star from a Bond movie in an episode of Space Precinct? Octopussy's Stephen Burkoff in Space Precinct's Deadline, or The Living Daylights' Mariam Darbo in Takeover?
Oh, it's got to be Burkoff, hasn't it?
It has to be, really. Ecclesiastical names, UFO's Ed Bishop or the Secret Service's Bishop?
Oh, Ed Bishop.
Gerry Anderson Scribes, Tony Barwick or Christopher Burr?
Ooh. Oh, Tony Barwick. Sorry, Chris. Yeah.
The Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, Chris Dale's series primers, or the weekly news briefings?
Oh, kudos to Chris Dale. He's great.
Yes, absolutely. Well done. There you go. There's your Quick Fire 5, Jamie. Very good.
Nice.
Yes.
I liked your ecclesiastical nomenclature question.
That's what I should have called it.
Yeah, if only you'd said that, it would have been really funny.
Oh well. Next time. Yeah, don't forget, we should have a bit of a shout out for Chris Dale's primers, actually, shouldn't we? I know we mentioned them occasionally. These are a series of, 5, 6, 7 minute introductions to any...
Sometimes 8, 9, 10 minutes, yeah.
Sometimes. To the Gerry Anderson series, you can take one at a time, Thunderbirds, Space 1999, Captain Scarlet, etc. It's a great way to get to know a series that you maybe aren't too familiar with. Because we know that a lot of you out there stick to your favourite series, and that's absolutely fine and dandy. But oftentimes, it's quite fun to dip your toe in to other series and see what they're about as well. So do pop over to the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel.
Plenty of people are trying new series. We had an email last week from Matthew Alderman Harris, one of our younger podsterons, who's been trying out Space Precinct and loving it.
Yeah.
And I think we've got an audio message coming up in the Voice of the Podsterons this week with somebody who's been trying some new series with their spare time.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So they're a really, really good way. I think we've got Joe 90 just up recently, and we've got Fireball XL5 and Terrorhawks coming in the next couple of weeks. Great. And Chris hopes to get through all of the Gerry Anderson shows in due course. Yeah. But as somebody pointed out on the comments on YouTube, Twizzle's going to be a bit of a short one.
Yes. There's only one surviving episode,
one surviving episode. Oh, there is a surviving script that we read recently, isn't there, Richard?
Oh, yes, that script.
Yeah, isn't it weird?
That is weird. We were going to do that for our 50th, weren't we? Maybe we could do it for the Christmas episode or something.
Or the 100th. Yeah, one of the two.
Give us more time to prepare. Yeah.
I think we will need some time to prepare for it. It's really, really odd.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Lots to look forward to on the YouTube channel and beyond. But there's also a lot of Gerry Anderson newsy stuff going on, Richard.
What, like news?
Quite possibly. So shall we therefore have some Gerry Anderson news now?
Yes.
Okay. Gerry Anderson News is here once again.
Yes.
As it has been every week for the last 63 weeks.
Not the same news, we should point out.
No, almost always different news.
Yeah.
Let's start that off with some news which I've already sort of mentioned earlier on, and that is the massive Gerry Anderson September prize giveaway thing, which is going on right now.
Now, I think it's so massive, we should actually call it Mahusive.
Mahusive.
In big block capital letters.
That's very down with the kids, isn't it?
Isn't it? Well, I am, you see.
Yeah, of course. So the Mahusive Gerry Anderson prize giveaway is running all the way through September. Just pop along to the Gerry Anderson website, gerryanderson.co.uk, and you'll see a link there about how to enter. Basically, just pop along, pop in your email address, which signs you up to the Gerry Anderson newsletter. So don't do that unless you're willing to be part of the newsletter. But the newsletter's great.
Yeah.
I've had loads of emails this week from people who are loving the newsletter, which is great.
Lovely.
Once you've signed up, you'll get, I think, 500 points for signing up, and then you can get extra points, which kind of count as extra entries by doing other things like liking our Facebook page, subscribing to the podcast, writing a review of the podcast, subscribing on YouTube, all these different things, which add up more entries, and then you've got a higher chance of being picked at random on the 1st of October.
I see.
Now, if you do win, you're going to win something rather special.
Cool.
And I'm just very quickly going to detail what you can win right now.
Oh, how exciting.
You're essentially going to win every available Gerry Anderson series and documentary on DVD, Blu-ray and audio, plus a multi-region Blu-ray player.
Oh.
So for the avoidance of doubt, the prize includes, but is not limited to, Torture the Battery Boy, Volume 1 and 2 on DVD,
Hooray!
Supercar on DVD, Fireball XL5 on DVD, the colorized episode of Fireball XL5 on Blu-ray, Stingray on DVD, Thunderbirds on DVD and Blu-ray, Captain Scarlet on DVD and Blu-ray, Joe 90 on DVD and Blu-ray, The Secret Service on DVD, The Lost Worlds of Gerry Anderson on DVD, UFO on Blu-ray, The Protectors on DVD, Space 1999 Series 1 and 2 on Blu-ray, Terrorhawks on Blu-ray, Dick Spanner on DVD, Space Precinct DVD, Lavender Castle on DVD, New Captain Scarlet on Blu-ray, The Filmed in Supermarionation documentary, Making the Unexpected documentary, HD 21, Captain Scarlet Spectrum Files 1, 2 and 3, Captain Scarlet 50th Anniversary Special Edition box set, Terrorhawks Volume 1, Volume 2 and Volume 3 on audio, Space 1999 Breakaway, the Standard Edition, the Gemini Force 1 books, Black Horizon, Ghost Mine and White Storm, the Into Infinity books, The Day After Tomorrow and Planetfall, and Space Precinct Reloaded Volume 1 comic, as well as that multi-region Blu-ray player.
Crikey, Jamie! Wow!
And there's more stuff.
And even that.
There's more stuff to be added to that, but basically you will have everything. If you are a Gerry Anderson completist, or if you have yet to dive into the worlds of Blu-ray, then this is the ideal prize for you. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can enter. The multi-region DVD player will be, the right one for wherever you live. And so it's really worth entering because it is such a massive prize package. And also, we will be selecting 10 random other runner-up winners. Runners-up
it's a bit like gins and tonic,
winners.
isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what I was supposed to say there. Who will be getting gift cards between randomly assigned values of £5 and £100 to use on the Gerry Anderson store.
Great.
So even if you don't win the big prize, you could still win something significant to go towards some goodies from the Gerry Anderson store.
Wonderful.
So there's no reason not to enter.
Unless you really don't like Gerry Anderson.
Yeah, in that case, why are you here? They must really love Richard James.
Hey!
So there you go. Going into that immediately after the podcast. Spread the word. The more you spread the word, the more points you get. So the higher your chance of winning that amazing prize.
People need to subscribe to the newsletter, but I'm assuming, obviously, we have many thousands of subscribers already.
Yes.
So,
in which case, you're just confirming the fact that you're subscribed. That's all. It'll all be done behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, great.
And throughout the month, we'll also add new ways to get more points.
Great.
So
loving it.
You can look forward to that. So the reason we're doing this is because September is such a massive month for everything Gerry Anderson.
Yes, it is.
As you know, Richard, there's 3 major things we're celebrating through September.
Yes.
First up, it's Breakaway Day, 13th of September 2019, 20 years since the moon broke away from Earth's orbit.
It did as well, I saw it, yes.
Yeah, of course, we all saw that happen.
Yeah.
And also that will also tie in with the release of Big Finish's wonderful audio drama reimagining of Breakaway.
Yeah.
The 21st of September is the 50th anniversary of the Secret Service.
Ah. Is it?
So, we're doing a few little things to celebrate that. Obviously, there's the Secret Service poster coming out. And there's a few other bits we haven't talked about yet, but we will do in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
And on the 30th of September, it's International Thunderbirds Day.
Yes.
Now, something very exciting has been announced for that, Richard, which you may have seen online.
Oh, no, I haven't.
A Thunderbirds Day live stream from the chaps behind Thunderbirds 1965, featuring some newly shot material for the narration parts of some mini-albums.
Right.
Plus the 3 new episodes from Thunderbirds 1965, plus some documentary stuff and other goodies.
Yeah.
Which you can watch, I think, on YouTube on the 30th of September, and it'll be repeated on the 5th and 6th of October.
Yes.
So, I mean,
So
September is going to be absolutely crazy.
It really is.
Yeah. And...
What?
And, Richard, next week, rather than our interview, we're going to have an exclusive of the first 15 minutes of the brand new Big Finish reimagining of Space 1999. The first 15 minutes of Breakaway, which you can hear exclusively on our podcast and the Big Finish podcast.
Brilliant.
In Pod 65.
Great. Well,
so, yeah,
that is amazing.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I mean, we often say there's no better time to be a Gerry Anderson fan. I mean, that sort of sums it up right there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, somebody did say, well, I think the 60s are probably a bit better, actually.
Oh.
Well, I mean, one might agree in terms of output, but you didn't have this wonderful platform, social media and the internet to share it on and to kind of be part of this community. So I think you could argue that this might be a pretty good time.
Yeah, and I don't think you could pick up many DVD box sets in the 1960s.
No, but you could get mini-albums.
Which are obviously infinitely better.
Well, well, maybe they are now. They've got pictures accompanying them, thanks to the TV65 boys. Anyway, there we go. It's very exciting.
Yes.
And also, if you are a Space 1999 fan, there's a couple of new lines available in the Gerry Anderson store. Loads of other stuff coming up. I'm not going to bore you with the details of the exact products and stuff. Just keep popping along to the Gerry Anderson store. Click on new items or new products or new arrivals at the top left, and you can see what's new.
Great.
But I mean, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's all
what's
pretty
going
cool
on right now.
And in the midst of all that, also, of course, we're going to have Fab Live. We've settled on a date, I think, but I can't for the life of me.
Is it the 16th?
16th, I think. Monday the 16th, if that is the Monday in the middle. It'll be the 16th, yes. I think that's right.
It is the 16th, so that's when we'll do Fab Live. And it's possible, Richard, that we might be doing it from a brand new location, isn't it?
It is possible, Jamie, yes.
Yeah, that's a hint I've dropped there, but let's not go any further.
No, okay, fine, let's leave that
And
right
it may
there.
not be sorted by then, so
sure.
let's see.
Yeah,
but anyway, look, that is more than enough.
Yeah.
And so that is the end now of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news! That was the news! I thought I'd go staccato this time, you see. Because last time, I let it play on a bit.
Yeah, you did go on a bit last time, didn't you? Went on and on and on. And
It was mentioned in dispatches on our Facebook group.
Was it that you warbled for too long?
Yeah.
It's a bit embarrassing,
I kept
isn't
it
it?
short and sweet this time.
For everyone involved.
Now, people have been emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. They have, and we'll be getting some listeners' emails in a moment. But just to remind you to please subscribe to us on whichever channel you're listening to us on, whichever platform that might be. And you can rate us and leave us a nice review and also share us with your friends. And you can also hashtag us on Twitter, Gerry Anderson Podcast. Tag him, I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard N. James, and we will see your tweets there and maybe read them out next week.
Oh, Richard. Right, I put some serious effort in this week, so are you ready?
Yeah, I think
This
so.
is the Battle of Terrorhawks in Space 1999.
Oh.
With a big theme.
Wow, I like it. Go on.
Big voices. Windsor Davies as Sergeant Major Zero or Brian Blessed in Death's Other Dominion.
Oh, it's got to be Windsor Davis, lovely boy.
Big roars. The monster from Dragon's Domain or SRAM from Terrorhawks.
the monster from Dragon's Domain.
In the Battle of Big Hair,
Yeah.
Joan Collins in Mission of the Darians or Kate Kestrel's Big Wigs.
Oh, lovely Joan Collins.
Nice. In Big Changes,
Yeah.
Space 1999's transition from Year 1 to Year 2, or Terrorhawks from straight-laced sci-fi to comedy fun.
Gosh, does it have to be a good big change or just a big change?
Which one you found better?
Oh,
of the
okay,
two?
well, the Terrorhawks in that case.
Good choice. And finally, big themes.
Yeah.
Derek Wadsworth's Year 2 Space 1999 theme or Richard Harvey's Terrorhawks
Oh, ooh. Richard Harvey's Terrorhawks.
theme. Great choice.
Can I stay then?
Yeah. You may remain. You don't need to leave or sit on the naughty step. There you go,
Wow.
Richard.
Oh, but very difficult ones though, Jamie, actually. Sometimes you just got to jump one way or the other, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was interested that you went for... I can't remember which one.
Terrorhawks over Space 1999, I
Yes,
think.
exactly.
Yes,
I was surprised by that.
I know. It is such a jar. I find season 1 to 2 of Space 1999 such a jar. There are some, prize episodes in season 2 as well, but overall for me, it's all about season 1.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you're going to love the Big Finish audio.
Yes, too right I am. Absolutely. Looking forward to that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed the extra effort I went to this week for Quickfire 5 rather than doing it during the
Yes,
podcast.
that certainly did make a difference. Yes, nice to have you prepared for once.
I do my best.
Oh, hang on, Jamie. I think I may have left the fridge door open. It's a terrible...
it's looking a bit chilly.
Yeah, isn't it? What is that?
Bit of a green light in there.
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
Oh, it's only our lovely Podsterons,
That's all right.
Richard.
Yeah, I didn't leave the fridge open after all. That's a relief.
No. Doesn't yours do that thing where it beeps
It does.
if you leave the door
Yes,
open?
I find that really annoying. I think, excuse me, I'm in charge of when I'll shut the door. Thank you very much. I don't like machines telling me what to do and when to do it.
All right.
It's like the car parking. When it really beep 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 beep. I know how to park my car.
a reversing sensor.
Yes.
Yeah, it's because you've got a posh car, mate. I haven't got one of those.
Yes. True.
You need a self-parking one, really. That's a really advanced
One day
isn't
it'll
it?
come, won't it?
Well, they already exist, don't they? The self-parking
Right, oh, do they?
parallel park ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I don't want that.
I haven't tried one, but
No,
they look kind
I
of...
want to park my car. Anyway, look, I'm going completely off topic now. I'm getting a bit ranty.
Well, no, I think self-parking cars is quite a Gerry Anderson theme, actually.
It is. It's true.
But anyway, no, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about our Podsterons and the emails they have sent us.
Yes.
So what have you got in the postbag there, Richard?
Well, first of all, we do love to hear your audio messages, and we get them from time to time. They're quite easy to do. Just speak into your phone and send us the resulting file, and we'll play it out. And we've had quite a few over the last...
Thank you for that.
Yeah, over the last a few pods. And we've got one here from Josh Long.
Hello to Jamie and Richard and all my fellow podsterons. So I had a bit of good news this week. Last week, I got the authorization of my green card in the United States, which was absolutely fantastic news to hear. I haven't been able to talk about this up until now, but for a whole year, I was not allowed to work. I was not allowed to drive or do anything like that. It's been a very, very long year for me. But what's kept me going is the amount of Anderson stuff that has been going on in the past year. Whether it be FAB Live, the podcast, or the Podsterons Facebook group, which feels like a huge family. It really does. And also, I have been able to catch up on the Anderson shows that I haven't seen. And I know, shame on me, because I've been an Anderson fan since I was 9 years old. I've been able to watch The Secret Service, UFO, Space 1999. I mean, Series 2 was a bit of a drag, but we got through it. Space Precinct, which I'm halfway through at the moment, and I am loving it. I really am. Also, I got to finish Terrorhawks, and I know there's so many more Anderson shows for me out there to watch that I haven't seen yet or haven't come across yet. So a huge thank you to Jamie and Richard and all of the Podsterons for helping me keep my sanity. I cannot wait for the future of Anderson. Spectrum is green.
Congratulations, Josh, on your green card.
Yeah, great news.
And do you like the idea of not having to work for a year and not being able to drive a car for a year, Richard?
Yes, that's pretty much my life, really. Apart from the bit about not having to drive a car.
Oh, yeah, you do have to drive a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I have to drive a bit, but I haven't worked for a while.
Oh, there you go, Josh. Well, Richard feels your pain.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But great that he's loving Space Precinct and he's found time to give all these extra Gerry Anderson shows a go.
Because there's so much out there, isn't there? That's the amazing thing. And, you know, you can love it, you can not love it quite so much, but there'll be something else for you, and other people will love something else, and you love something else, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
so much.
And Space Precinct keeps coming up as that thing. You know, we had a review on someone who's bought the DVD box set last week, and said on the original run I only saw the first 2 episodes. I didn't like it. And revisiting it, it is so much better than I remember, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think it really does bear sticking with. You know, once you get past the initial 3 or 4, I think that's when it starts to come into its own. So.
But don't you think this is a thing that is quite regular in Anderson shows from decade to decade? You get the people that watched, you know, shows as they grew up that were coming out, that were new to them, whether they were actually new or just being repeated. And then once they got into teenage years or adulthood, when a new Gerry Anderson show came along, there was a bit of resistance. They're like, well, it's not going to be like the ones from my childhood.
Yes.
And that's something that Terrorhawk suffers from in particular, and Space Precinct. But actually, when people do push through, okay, I'm going to reapproach it with an open mind, we keep hearing people going, oh, wow, Terrorhawks is brilliant, once you get past the first 3 or 4 or 5. And the same with Terrorhawks. But, you know, they're all a bit like that. If you haven't tried a Gerry Anderson show because you're worried it won't be as good as the ones from your childhood, folks, just try.
Yes.
And if you don't like it, complain to Richard and James.
What? Hey, no, don't.
On
I don't
Twitter.
want complaints.
And I'll provide you his address for any written complaints. Anyway, thank you very much, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Enjoy your green card status.
Yeah.
Now, I have an email here, Richard, which I thought had gone to the wrong email address initially because it starts, Hi, John, Paul, George and Ringo.
Oh, eh?
This is an email from Dick Trice.
Oh, yeah.
And Dick, he said the Fab Four he's named us after, thus removing the first name issue.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay.
But there's only 3 of us, aren't there?
Yes, there is really, isn't there? Maybe the
Who's Ringo,
guest
then?
interviewer, perhaps. So this interviewee, rather. So that would be John Glen this week, I suppose.
So John Glen's Ringo.
Yeah, I'd be George.
Right, I'll tell him you said that. Okay, fine. I'm not going to say which one I am and which one Chris is, but there we go. Now, he's writing in about a toy. That's what starts things off.
Oh, yeah.
He says, the dinky MSV 105, it's a bit sad I remember the number, they were not gold bars inside. Because we talked about this a little while ago. There's a little crate with gold bars.
Right.
He said they were radioactive isotopes, hence the radioactive sticker.
Oh, I see.
So there you go.
Easy mistake to make.
But the box was originally used as gold bars and in a previous Dinky Bullion van. Well, that explains it. So thank you for correcting us there, Dick.
Yes.
He continues, I picked up on your podcast from a Facebook post about the Royal Albert Hall and the Thunderbirds theme.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
From our little celebration there, thanks to Rob Taylor.
Yep.
And he's been listening ever since. I started number 1, and after 20 odd, I decided I better move to the current ones. So straight to 60. Fair enough, Dick.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's all filler between 20 and 60 anyway, to be quite honest. He says, I'm originally from Birmingham, so the Mark Silk interview was full of memories, but I'm currently listening to the podcast travelling around the highways of South Australia, working as a service tech for a Danish pump company, fixing drinking and irrigation water pumps.
Well,
this sounds like the start of a potential Thunderbirds disaster to me.
yes, it really does.
Or a Mistron attack, possibly. Yeah, Podstron attack. Yeah. He said, does that count as international rescue? I think it does,
Most
Dick.
certainly.
He says, as a child, I never got to see the shows very often, as I was brought up by grandparents for a number of years, and TV was in the posh room or the front parlour, and was not for kids to watch.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I recall one birthday blagging my way to be able to watch the TV at tea time, and it was Thunderbirds and Scarlet, so which one would it be?
Ooh.
Only to find out that it was budget day, and so there was no kids' TV playing.
Oh.
Drats, and double drats.
Yes.
The downside of being born in March. Well, I'm a March baby too, Dick. There we go.
Yeah.
He continues, I did all right for toys, but was always envious of other kids because I never got the Anderson stuff until finally I was given a UFO interceptor while in Torquay and thinking, why is it green? Well, a question that many kids of the 60s and 70s asked of various things. Yeah. The other side of not getting to see these shows very often was when you did, wow, you remembered it. I could always tell it was a Gerry Anderson show, so was well aware of Stingray, Thunderbirds, Scarlet 90, even the Secret Service, and even my sister's Candy and Andy annual, which I still have.
Crikey. Why would you
Amazing,
keep that?
Secret Service and Candy and Andy. I mean, nobody remembers the two at once, surely. Yeah. Anyway, he rounds off this with saying, my son was brought up on Space Precinct, and we have a video somewhere of him asking Father Christmas for a Brogan.
Ah.
I said you don't want a gun for Christmas. See what he did there?
Yeah.
My daughter is still in my phone as Pod, which is a throwback to her mother's belly looking like Captain Podley's.
Love it.
He says it's not until this podcast that you realise how many small things in one's life are connected to these shows, so keep up the good work. Yeah. Regards from Dick Trice, also known as Captain Dick Spanner Thrice.
Is he now?
Mixing some shows there, but thank you, Dick. Lovely.
Very good. I have one here from Anthony. Anthony from Down Under says, hi, Richard and Jamie. I introduced my friend Jonathan to your podcast. And while he's more a Doctor Who fan than Thunderbirds, he's enjoyed your interviews and Captain Scarlet and Terrorhawk's audios, being familiar with the work of Big Finish. He was unaware of your store. So while your store directs one to the podcast, on this occasion, it worked backwards, and he was thrilled to be one of the lucky ones to purchase the limited edition Space 1999 audio.
Congrats, Jonathan.
How lucky was that? I was wondering if we might have Catherine Schell guest star in a future audio. Is it wrong that I thought that Barbara Bain was scarier than a lot of the aliens when I was a kid, he asks?
I think Barbara might say that it is wrong. Yes, possibly.
Finally, he says, recently I purchased and thoroughly enjoyed reading Gregory Norris's Into Infinity Planet 4 novel. I hope there are more volumes and or the possibility of an audio drama. Regarding potential interviewees, it would be nice to hear how Mr. Norris adapted Gerry's ideas into novels, as well as from M.G. Harris, who wrote the brilliant Gemini Force 1 series, which is even better than Into Infinity, he says. Ooh. Anyway, thanks for the banter, wit, humour and camaraderie, gents. And that's from Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for getting in touch.
Great suggestions on guests. Yeah. I shall have a chat with those authors.
Yes.
As for Catherine Schell guest starring in a future audio, I don't know. It's not up to me. Mm-hmm. She is a very busy lady. Yeah. She's in that new Mark Gatiss Dracula thing, isn't she?
Oh, is she?
I tried to get her to the podcast a little while ago and she wasn't available because of that.
Right.
So we will see.
Yeah.
But thank you for that. And thank you for introducing somebody to the podcast in the store.
We like that, don't we?
Because, I was asking and somebody's actually done it now.
Which is nice, isn't it?
There you go, box ticked, thank you.
That's right, so if you have a question, do drop us a line at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and we'd love to answer it. Or in the meantime, you can join our Facebook group. You don't have to, of course. Most of the fun happens right here on the podcast. But I know...
Fun in air quotes. I wish you could hear air quotes. I'm doing them now.
But if you're on Facebook, then do pop along to facebook.com/groups/podstrons, where Bill Ronald, for example, is asking if anyone remembers collecting Thunderbird cigarette cards as a kid. Yeah, something you couldn't
Not
get away
personally.
with now. Yeah. Dave Lawson is modelling his latest Captain Black hoodie in Wollongong, Australia, courtesy of the Gerry Anderson store. And the Friday night watch parties are continuing apace. They're really taking off with thanks to Abby and Alistair. And this Friday, the 30th of August, they're going to be watching episodes from Captain Scarlet, New Captain Scarlet, and Terrorhawks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Captain Scarlet, new Captain Scarlet. Do you know that a rival podcast known as, I think, the Benji and Nick Show?
Never heard of it. No.
I've never listened to it myself.
No.
But
I certainly wouldn't answer it if they phoned me up mid-podcast.
No, it would be rude, wouldn't
never
it?
happen.
What sort of people would do that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I've heard from a third-party, traitor-type source that this week they're reviewing the first episode of Captain Scarlet and the first 2 episodes of New Captain Scarlet in a sort of compare and contrast and review fashion.
How clever.
So I suppose you could pop over and listen to that after you finish this podcast.
Just this once.
If you've got the time. You need sort of cheering up from something really, really depressing.
Yeah.
Well, at least you're not on the Benji and Nick Show.
Well, then what they could do is then listen to an edition of our podcast and rate and review the 2 of those together and see how we compare.
Yes, do a compare and contrast. Actually, best not.
Yeah, maybe not.
There's some I was going to say rabid fans of the Benji and Nick Show who might come and slate us.
Yeah, quite right.
But
it's good fun.
Do go and listen to that. It should be fun, and I'm sure they'll ring me up for it.
Of course they will.
And I'll have to say some things.
Yes.
Probably.
Most certainly.
Anyway, Richard.
Oh, yeah?
Should we do some interviewy stuff?
Yes.
Because obviously, last week I did cut the interview slightly short.
You
just
cheating.
to cut it short of a reveal that John is about to make.
Yeah.
Now, John Glen, director of multiple Bond films, a friend of the late Roger Moore, friend of Timothy Dalton, friend of my dear late father, acquaintance of yours, at a push, if he remembers who you are.
All right.
I'm only joking.
He was very nice to me when I met him at Andacon at Heathrow. He said he
I'm sure he
me.
was. He's just a very nice man.
Yeah.
He'd say anything to make you smile, Richard, I think.
I know.
Anyway, we left John last week talking about how he actually worked with a member of the art department from the Century 21 studios. Now, we couldn't remember who it was in the interview, but I'm pretty sure it would have been Reg Hill.
Oh, yeah.
But then it was that moment that John suddenly remembered that he'd met Reg Hill many years before in different circumstances. So let's rejoin the interview. The art director in question that John says is Reg Hill, and let's hear what he has to say next.
Oh,
here he is.
I know it was a bit embarrassing because I hired him, and when he came in for the interview, the last time I'd seen him was over at Slough, at Gerry's studio there, and I'd applied for a job to direct. Before I got the Bond gigs, I applied to Gerry to direct some of the Thunderbirds, and I was interviewed by this chap who I now was interviewing as a storyboard artist, and he'd been like associate producer, and he was delegated to interview me. I didn't get the job, funnily enough, so he was a bit embarrassed. Amazing. But it didn't embarrass me at all, because that's what happens in the industry. 1 minute you're down, next minute you're up, and you'd be pleasant to everyone, because you never know who your boss is going to be.
Yeah. God, I had no idea that you were almost a Thunderbirds director, John. So, I mean, how did that... Was that just because you knew Dad and you'd seen what he was doing? And
well, I was trying to get started. I directed an episode of Man in a Suitcase for Sid Cole, and I'd gone a couple of days over schedule, so I was never hired again, put it that way. I mean, you had to be on time. And, I had lots of excuses, but they didn't ask me to do another one. So I was a bit down on my luck, and I was looking for another directing assignment. And that's when I got in touch, sent a letter to your dad, and he passed it on, I think, to his second in command. And I went down there. They gave me an interview, but it didn't result in a job at that time.
Gosh.
So I had to wait a few more years before I actually worked with Gerry.
30 years later. Oh gosh, so did you see around the studios or anything like that? Or was it just into an office?
I just into the office. But Gerry had turned down quite a few people who became great successors. Was it the chap, the impresario that did Grease and all those films? I think he came to the studio looking for a job, and I think Gerry turned him down. So I wasn't alone.
You're in good company. Gosh, but I mean, so you'd seen what he was doing over the time, had you?
Oh yeah, I admired what he was doing. My kids used to watch his stuff. I mean, it was just, if I remember rightly, they used to watch his films. And then the other great thing was Doctor Who, And my kids, when they were young, they were so frightened of Doctor Who, they used to look through a chink in the door. They wouldn't go in to watch it on the television. They'd look through it, look through the little chink in the door. They were so scared of it.
Fantastic. So they were watching, what, Supercar, Fireball XL5, that stuff? Was it late?
It was the early ones. I think it was mostly, Thunderbirds.
Yeah. Fantastic. So is that where then through that, or did you get an awareness of Derek Meddings, or was Derek just becoming well known?
I knew Derek. I knew Derek was a genius who designed a lot of this stuff, and for Gerry and what have you. And I admired what he did because it was way ahead of his time, and the stuff that he did on a very small budget and what have you. He had a great imagination, Derek. I remember Gerry telling me a story. He said that years later, after Derek had been very successful working on my films, on the Bond movies, and become very sought after, top of his profession, basically. And I think Gerry, when he was doing a new series, he turned to Derek one day and met him, and he said, would you like to come and work for me again? And Derek Meddings looked at Gerry. He said, Gerry, you couldn't afford me. No, Derek went on to do lots of good things. Very artistic man.
Yeah, really.
Died tragically young.
Yes. I don't think I ever met Derek, actually.
Didn't you?
No, unfortunately.
No.
He's one of those people that was very sad not to meet.
Yeah.
Him and Barry Gray, the musician, the composer.
Yeah. He did 2 films for me. He did For Your Eyes Only. But I recommended him for Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Moonraker, he was right in his element, outer space and all that stuff. He was really good at that. Then he did For Your Eyes Only, and I think he did Octopussy. I'm trying to remember. I think he did. And then I know we had a production meeting, and Derek had been offered the Santa Claus film by the Salkins, I think, and we were having a meeting and with all the heads of the departments, and Derek turned around and he said, I won't do the next film. I won't be doing it unless I have complete control over the budget. And there was a deathly silence went around the table, and everyone looked at me as the director. And Derek was a great friend of mine, and there was this silence, and I stood up, reached out my hand to Derek, shook his hand and said, thank you, Derek, for all the good work you've done for us. And of course he went off and did that film. He was he had this in his back of his mind, I could tell straight away. So there was no point in trying to entice him to stay. He'd obviously made his mind up, and we couldn't give him complete control over his budget. I mean, that's suicide for any filmmaker. He wanted to be, I guess he was just ambitious, but...
Well, like so many people, which is why we know their names, like yours and Dad's and Derek's and all the rest, is that ambitious people who want to do better and better stuff.
Sure. But you never give anyone, I've never in my career ever given anyone an ultimatum, do it this way or else. Never do that, because I had an uncle, I remember he was a top man at Vickers Engineering, and he was managing director, I think. And he did that. He said that to the board one day. He said, you do it my way or else. And they all looked at him, or else. And he left. He was gone. So you don't do that.
It was a bit of
there are other ways to get your own way.
Much smarter ways, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you were thrown, it was, initiation by fire, going into the Broccoli's office and being told, right, you're the director of the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, was that a bit daunting?
It was exciting. What I did was I made a conscious decision that I would change the course of the Bond movies, in a sense, and I would do it my way. Now, I was always a great believer in... as a kid, I used to go and watch the Keystone Cops and all that stuff, the children's cinema and what have you. And that's where I guess that fired my imagination. And it wasn't that I was going to copy the Keystone Cops exactly, but I was good at action. All my life I've been involved in real-life action. And I had a good imagination, and I was able to devise these action scenes and develop them. And it takes a while. It's quite a lonely business, actually. And I was able to devise the action scenes and actually storyboard them and delegate to other units, underwater unit, aerial unit, what have you. And they all had a clear plan, what they were about, what they were going to shoot. In fact, I remember on For Your Eyes Only, I was shooting the scenes with Roger Moore and Carol Bouquet on the surface when they were being dragged through the water by this other boat, and there were sharks underneath and what have you. And they were roped together, and they had to escape from this impossible situation. I was shooting in Corfu, I was shooting the overwater sequence, whereas at precisely the same time in the Bahamas, we had an underwater unit shooting the stuff under the water with the sharks. And it was just coordinated beautifully, and that's what I loved. I loved that organisation and, delegating to various people. And I used to choose all the people myself. I mean, Arthur Worcester was my second unit director. I had great admiration for Arthur. He was a wonderful one-man band. He was he was one of those chaps who, when I first muted Arthur to Cubby Broccoli, he sort of pursed his lip and he said, "We'll see about that. What has he done?" I said, "Well, he hasn't done any feature work, but he's done lots of documentaries and he lights and he does everything. He's a one-man band. He's very self-sufficient. He does mountaineering underwater. He's a fantastic guy, documentary cameraman." And Cubby said, "Well, we'll see about that." And of course, I had to work on him for 2 or 3 weeks eventually. I got him an interview with Cubby, and Arthur, if you saw him in those days, he had thick pebble glasses, and he's a bit away with the Pixies, he's not a boffin exactly, but he's Which Way, we used to call him, Which Way. And anyway, he came down to the studio, and Barbara, Cubby's daughter, came rushing into the office. She said, "This funny little man out there," she said, he's looking for your office. And with that, Arthur comes into the office, trips over the carpet, and Cubby looked at me saying, "What, what's the cat dragged in, And anyway, he took a lot of convincing, but Arthur got the job, and of course, then he became a permanent fixture even after I had left the series.
Yeah.
Arthur continued on. He was such an asset.
So I think a lot of people, John, have a view that a film director is, especially on these big things, is someone that comes in, rules with an iron fist. It's all about their creative vision. They're difficult to work with, but the picture you paint of the way you work is someone who comes in with a strong creative vision and then knows how to communicate it to others, delegate it to others, and then there's a bit of kind of nurturing of the crew as a whole. Is that a
yeah,
good
I think that's a fair assumption, but I think the thing is that you choose what's very important for a director, to choose all his creative people that work with him, which I was allowed to do. I must say, very clever Cubby. He sometimes took a lot of convincing, but in the end of the day, he let the director have his way, And he's very wise. And of course, Cubby was loved by the crew, and he was the chap that used to go around. He'd even cook spaghetti for them if they were in Egypt and the food was lousy. He'd get a huge amount of spaghetti and cook for the whole unit. He was a lovely man. And as I say, Roger was an absolute joy to work with on the set. There was no this big star syndrome with Roger. He'd walk on the set in the morning, and the first thing he'd say was, "Smile, everyone who had it off last night." And of course, everyone smiled, and that was the start of the day. And then I used to have to allow about an extra half an hour a day for Roger's jokes and entertaining the crew. He said to me one day, he said, when I was fairly new on, he turned to me one day, I think I was telling one of the crew off, trying to speed up the schedule's all important. You've got to keep the schedule. Particularly on these big films, you have to, because the costs just spiral if you're not careful. And I was telling off one of the crew because they were being a bit slow. And Roger came over to me, he said, "Be nice to the little people," he'd said. And Roger was nice to the little people. Yeah, he was lovely.
Nice humans to work with. Well, I know obviously that there are other nations involved in Bond, but I would say that Bond and Anderson stuff are two of the sort of great British entertainment institutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're involved in both.
Yeah.
Can you see from your experience, John, any parallels between the two? Because both are also very, very long-lived, although Bond is one continuous thing.
Very much so. I mean, although Bond has that sort of aura about it of being hugely expensive, complicated films and that. In fact, the truth is nothing like that. I mean, they are. It's not a lot of difference in my book between making a film on a Gerry Anderson film and making a film on the Bond film. The only difference is you've got 6 months to shoot a 2-hour film on the Bonds, whereas you've got 2 weeks on the Gerry Anderson film. But basically the same planning goes in. You employ very, very clever technicians that make you as a director look good. And that's why it's important the director chooses his own people, because then they're responsible to the director. They're not hiding behind the producers or anything. So we had a good formula. Peter Lamont was our art director, who was promoted at the same time as I was. And Peter Lamont had worked, I think, on every Bond except for one, going way back to Dr. No, I think, or shortly after Dr. No. And he's a very clever man indeed. And he introduced me to Foreground Miniatures. Now, Foreground Miniatures, I use them with Gerry. If you want to be economical and the script calls for a very elaborate cathedral, shall we say, all the action takes place on the floor. The bit that goes on top, that goes up into a huge dome or whatever, you can do that with a foreground miniature. So you can have a very modest set, if you like, but you build something on top which looks fantastic, and it melds in with the floor and makes the thing look $1 million. And we use that a lot in action on the Bond films, Foreground Miniatures. In For Your Eyes Only, Derek Medlins also was very good on Foreground Miniatures. And we were at Beckton Gasworks. It's the derelict. It was the biggest gasworks in Europe, and it was being dismantled, so it was in a state of wreckage, if you like. And, I devised a scene where this helicopter is being controlled by remote control by the baddie. And, of course, the helicopter was perfect for the helicopter to fly in and out of all the buildings. And so I said to Derek, I'd written this up that he flies the helicopter inside a building, which, of course, is virtually impossible to do. And Derek said to me, well, we can build a wall in the foreground which will merge into the background, and all you do is you fly the helicopter between the real building and the foreground miniature building, which is just a wall, perfectly scaled, and it appears to go into the hangar. And it works for you. If you look at that film, you'll see it just works so well. And once you're inside the hangar, of course, you can do what you like. You get a phony helicopter and you put Bond inside and you put it on rails and scoot it round corners and all sorts. No, it turned out to be a very good sequence, very, very exciting sequence. And we use foreground miniatures all the time. And it's one of the oldest techniques. We go back to the Keystone Cops again. They invented a lot of these techniques that we still use today. Very, very clever.
Yeah, well, it's more of those working with very clever people, like you said, that make you look good.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's why it's great to delegate. If someone else comes up with a better idea and you've got, then grab it. You'll get the credit for it. If it doesn't work, you'll also get the credit for it. That's
exactly what Dad used to say about, it's my name above the titles, and if it does well, then great, I take the success, and if it all falls apart, then I take all the bad stuff too.
That's right, absolutely right.
Yeah. And so, John, we're closing in on time. So, just generally. So, Dad got in touch with you for Space Precinct. You worked on Space Precinct. How did you think it ended up? Watching it back and reflecting on it and seeing how the audience responded to it, it seemed to slightly miss the mark. And I've got a huge amount of love for Space Precinct.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I saw you quite a lot on the set when I was a little boy with a full head of hair.
Right. Absolutely.
But it didn't quite get there.
I think it's true to say it's like everything, really. I mean, Thunderbirds was such a great success because it went on for so many series and it developed. All the youngsters were watching it. It developed its own audience, and it was new. The idea was new. What we were competing against was the sort of the big space adventures and what have you. And we were trying to base it on the futuristic thing. And some worked better than others, I think it's fair to say. But, we did the series and it went out and it had moderate success, but it not huge success. So they didn't take up a second series. But who knows, if it had gone on, we'd have improved our stories, we'd have improved the techniques. It was just one of those things, it takes a little while to get going. And if it doesn't work, on the first series, the money people tend to say that's enough,
Yeah. And it had its own problems as well. I don't know, as a director, how privy you were to, the technical and financial difficulties of the whole production.
It did,
Did it feel difficult along the way?
Occasionally it did. I mean, Gerry was very good, like a good producer always is. He shields you from the money side of it. I was the creative part and Gerry was the money part, and a good producer will keep you away from those pressures. But I was aware that they were having difficulty with the finance. And, we were pretty good. We kept our schedules and we kept to our budgets. But at the end of the day, unless it's an instant hit, it takes time. And unfortunately, the time is something that they don't allow you to have.
Yeah, time ran out. Because you can certainly see an improvement across the series in terms of everything really.
Yeah.
Writing the way it was shot, the effects stuff became more elaborate with Steve Begg taking over that.
Well, Steve Begg, of course, he was quite amazing. He was a natural successor to Derek Meddings, really. And he had his own little operation over at Shepperton where we used to send the stuff over, and he was his own entity over there. And of course, he's gone on to do the Bond films now, and he's everyone wants to use Steve Begg,
Yeah, he's
Gruff Scotsman.
I'll tell him you said that.
Yeah.
Just John, post Precinct, you sort of remain friends with Mum and Dad because I see you occasionally for various things.
Still friends. Yeah, we just live quite close to one another, and we see Mary quite a lot now. Yeah, Gerry, he it was a shame really, but towards the end he got this dementia, I suppose it was. But it's sad to see such a brain, disintegrate in the last few months of his life.
Yeah, especially because work was his life. I mean, I would say that you two were friends.
Yeah.
Did you see much beyond his love of television and film?
Yeah.
In your friendship?
Oh yeah, we used to meet socially. I mean, we'd go to local pubs and have a meal and have a chat. And I think Gerry was naive in certain areas about, he was, for instance, they wanted to make a feature film of Thunderbirds, which in fact they made. And I also remember he said to me one day, he said, they've offered me $500,000 just to put my name on the credits. And he said, no, of course I refused. He said, I read the script and I didn't like it, so I refused to take their $500,000. I looked at Gerry, I said, Gerry, you're mad. Take the money and run. Well, he was very principled.
Yeah, and he was very passionate about his own things, even though he sold them to
he'd given birth to this concept, Thunderbirds, and he didn't want it to be designated, I don't know. Anyway, he refused it. He probably didn't need the money, but it's hard to turn down $500,000, isn't it?
And yet you still managed it. John, just finally, if you look back on your career as a whole, I mean, we've missed out huge chunks because it's not just about Bond and Space Precinct. There's loads of stuff elsewhere. Yeah. But are there any particular highlights? And you could pick a single Bond movie or a single a shot or something that you did that is your kind of standout moment?
I think probably one of my favourite Bond movies I did was Octopussy. The ingredients, and we started off with a short story of Fleming's, which was an auction at Sotheby's, which is a very good scene in the film, actually, about this egg, and a very good premise for the movie that followed. And of course, we used Maud Adams, who's one of my favourites, and she's a lovely person to work with. And had animals, they had the circus. So we had, not only did we have like elephants, and we brought the elephants in from Germany, and we had to construct a special set because they were so heavy, And of course we used the elephants to gain access to the Winter Palace in India, although we shot it in the studio. But very, very strange. And I remember saying to Roger, he said, "You can't be serious about me wearing this clown's costume, can you?" I said, "It's a perfect disguise." And it was wonderful because I worked this scene out. And of course, he disappears into a caravan and he's being hunted by the baddies. And he comes out in the clown's costume and he mingles quite happily with everyone in the circus until he comes face to face with his exact double, who was the original clown, had the same costume, same nose, everything, comes face to face. But I just loved all that humour, the contrasts. Yeah, we'd always try and get excitement and then have a laugh at the end, which would make people release any tensions, and it always worked. Yeah. You see, it was quite common to see an aeroplane flying over a car, but you don't often see a car flying over an aeroplane. And so that was always in the back of my mind when I was designing those scenes.
And John, I see occasional interviews and TV appearances and stuff. Do you do conventions and bits and pieces or anything like that? If people want to come and find you and meet you?
I'm doing less now because I'm getting old, it becomes, and I've always been very conscientious. I did a show here recently at the Kenton Theatre. Never done this thing in a paying audience, 250 people for charity, mind you. And it was a great success, and I was very relaxed, and people really enjoyed it. I showed a few clips and talked about the various things about the film, and a lot of humour, a lot of laughter. Yeah, it was good.
So people keep an eye out; they might be able to meet you.
Yeah,
occasionally,
but they better hurry up.
Bless you, John. John, thank you. You've been brilliant.
Okay.
It's awesome. So, obviously a great interview,
yes.
But I would say that the fact that John Glen was rejected as a potential director of Thunderbirds, and then going on to direct 5 Bond films,
that's right,
is a pretty fab fact.
That's great, and you can find no other record of that anywhere.
Well, look, I haven't done an exhaustive search. I haven't gone looking through John's biography and everything ever written, but I've asked a few people who are in the know, and I've looked online, and I can find no other mention of this.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure that it's an exclusive. And if not, let's just pretend it is an exclusive, because I was very excited by it and still am. But I mean, imagine how different things could have been.
Yes, that's right.
If one of the directors of Thunderbirds might have been John Glen. I mean, he already had got to know Derek Meddings and co. and used Derek and worked with Derek on the Bond film. So it wouldn't have changed that partnership. Yeah. But who knows if maybe it would have brought Dad's team into the fold on the Bond pictures more. Sure. Who knows what might have happened.
And then the fabled, much oft talked of Gerry Anderson Moonraker script might have seen the light of day, mightn't it?
Absolutely, could well have done. Or John might have got wind of it later on and got him back in to do... Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? It's very cool. But basically, he didn't get the job on Thunderbirds because he went over schedule on Man in a Suitcase.
Ah, right.
And back then, as I was chatting to Nick Briggs about this the other day, if you went over, you were basically blacklisted from working on telly. Right. Yeah, because they couldn't afford it. Yeah. It was you were, that's your one job as director.
Bring it in under budget, on time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he went over. And so that was that.
Ah, how interesting.
So there you go.
Yeah,
it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and obviously loads of other fascinating stuff in there, but I thought that was particularly cool. Now, very brief apologies, listeners, for the tapping and the banging, which I didn't notice during recording, but I know was slightly distracting in both parts of the interview, so apologies for that, but hopefully it didn't ruin your enjoyment of what I thought was a rather nice chat.
We'd never do it here, would it? Never happen.
No, never any weird sounds or anything. Don't be ridiculous.
Anyway,
Richard, stop that, please. Sorry. Stop it. Now, next week, before I forget, I've already said it, but before I forget, again. There's no interview.
Yeah.
Instead, there is a feature, and that is the first 15-ish minutes of Big Finish's Space 1999 Breakaway. So you can start to get a flavour for the new telling of the classic and iconic Breakaway story, leading us into next year's 4-story box set of Space 1999. It's very exciting.
Lovely. Great. Well, we look forward to that. In the meantime, of course, as you can imagine, the first part of the John Glen interview went down an absolute storm last week, and it does feature quite heavily in my top 5 tweets of the week.
Oh, let's hear those, Richard.
5.
First of all, Brandon Gant got in touch on Twitter to say, lovely episode. Though John says he was the most experienced director on the series, further examination shows such luminaries as Sidney Hayers, Colin Buxey, Peter Duffel, Jim Goddard and Piers Haggard helming Space Precinct. He was certainly in good company.
4.
The James Bond Lexicon on Twitter said, excellent and informative interview with John Glen on this week's Gerry Anderson podcast. Recommended listening.
3.
And that thought is echoed by film podcast Do You Expect Us to Talk, who said, we're big fans of all things James Bond and Gerry Anderson here on our show, so we can't recommend the new episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast. Oh, highly enough.
Nice save.
2.
Carl says, to add a bit of mystery and intrigue on that early trip to work, I thoroughly recommend listening to the Protectors soundtrack, as I've been doing this week. It works really well.
1.
And finally, John Berry says, by the way, you can hear Pat Sharp talk all things Gerry Anderson on the Gerry Anderson podcast, available on all good podcast providers and YouTube too. Yeah, it's true.
Got a week full of recommendations.
I know.
Amazing.
Isn't that great? But again, just shows the breadth, doesn't it? Bond director to kids TV presenter, all in the same group of podcasts. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. And I did see a new review from Something Unpronounceable where they simply said, this is a very great podcast show.
Well, that'll do nicely.
Thank you very much. We'll take that.
We will. That's great.
Now, one of the reasons people think this is a very great podcast show, Richard, is nothing to do with us.
No, that's true.
But in fact, it is to do with the Archbishop Randomiser himself, Chris Dale. I'm not sure why they've gone down the sort of religious and papal route today, but no worries.
Well, it's bound to happen, wasn't it? It is something
Pope
of a religion.
Randomiser III. Chris Dale. Now, Chris takes us through a 6-decade-long journey through Anderson shows. It doesn't feel like 6 decades because he does it one episode at a time where he drops some knowledge bombs, gives us some trivia, facts, his thoughts and reviews of various episodes, and it's all picked at random.
It is.
But this time, he's doing it from a secret location somewhere in the Pacific.
That's right. I control the whole works from here. I've only got to push one of these buttons and it's Thunderbirds are go. Yes, Chris, it's quite an organization.
Yes, Jeff, it certainly is. I'd have to agree. I mean, I have been watching your adventures now for, about 30 years, I would say.
You've done what?
Oh, don't worry. Nobody else knows that Tracy Island is really the top secret base of international rescue. Winking to the audience doesn't go over so well on audio. Anyway, Jeff Tracy, all-round good chap. How about you press the button on the randomizer for me today?
Okay, stand by.
That's it. Good man.
Oh, bang on. Jolly good show.
Are you making fun of how I speak?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just checking. Right, let's see what we've got to... Okay, well, it's Terrorhawks today, and actually, you know what? We're going to reveal the episode title by playing a little game. Jeff, if you could just, and then when they... Does that make sense?
Your scheme strikes me as being daring and imaginative.
Good. But we are going to need some help with this. There they are. That's it, lads. In you come. Yep, all the way in. A bit more room over here.
Giant alligators?
Well, I only invited one. I'm not quite sure why he brought all his friends along with him. Anyway, Jeff, Mr. Alligator, Jeff, let's give this a try. Today's episode of Terrorhawks is...
Thunder...
That's it! Thunder Roar! Well, that was simple. Let go of my arm. No, Mr. Alligator, please, seriously, let go. Jeff, Scott, seriously, a little help here?
Hold it, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Seriously? You're just gonna let me get eaten? I thought rescues were your thing. Get off.
Yeah, but this one's too dangerous.
You can say that again.
Here's Terrahawks!
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
So we're back with Terrahawks. It's been quite a while since we last saw the older Terrahawks on the Randomiser, and this is the earliest episode so far we've seen from them. I think, haven't all the appearances of the Terrahawks on the Randomiser so far been from the second season? Haven't they all been not young star episodes, It Star episodes? Do you know, I think there might have been. I mean, it's worrying that I mean, I'm the one who puts all these together and I can't remember what we've seen, and I do have a list of what we've seen, you know, right here in front of me, but I can't call it up while the episode is playing. Anyway, this is certainly the earliest episode we've seen, and, you know, when you go back to very early episodes of, not all shows, but many shows, the very earliest episodes, they're a bit uncomfortable, they're a bit weird, because you know they're not going to be much like the show that came later. And yeah, the early episodes of Terrahawks are kind of a painful watch at times, because they were taking themselves so seriously to start with.
Wishes to see you before he departs.
And there's none of the fun and the energy and the humour of the later episodes, and particularly the characterisation. I mean, this I think is Young Star's introduction to the series. He's just suddenly there, with no explanation, having not appeared in the first 2 episodes at all. And it was very odd the way the show just sort of did nothing to introduce Young Star or Sistar either. I think Sistar just suddenly turns up in like episode 5 or 6 with, again, no explanation as to who she is. I think probably her character was slightly better formed than Young Star is here, because there's none of the sort of eager, incompetent, the drooling imbecile that would later characterise Young Star.
Strike the Terrahawks with your thunder. Smash them with your terrible power.
Yeah, he seems like capable and aware of his surroundings. This is not the Young Star that we all know and love.
Victory! Go! Now!
So Zelda has released the mighty SRAM from the cryogenic store, and actually we saw her starting to do that at the end of the Expect the Unexpected 2-parter, in fact. So this follows on from that.
What do you think you're playing at, Zero?
I was playing your video games.
But one thing Terrahawks did get right, I think pretty much right out of the gate, was the relationship between Dr. Einstein and the Sergeant Major.
And what do I find? Zero's playing my game.
That's not so terrible. What did you score, Sergeant Major?
820, Mom. And I hadn't finished.
What? That's higher than...
Because obviously, although he is basically a machine, but he is a real proper person, a fully fledged character, possibly more so than...
Isn't that what you always say?
At least half of the humans in this show.
What I meant to say was...
Oh, and that... The Zeroid props are so perfectly designed, and just there you have that lower lip section of Zero's mouth just lights up in a smile. He doesn't need to say anything. The model, the prop, just looks so smug. It's beautiful, and it also sort of brings through that the characterization that Windsor Davies was giving in his performance anyway.
I'll check it, sir.
Knock it out, Hero. 10-10.
And a very odd element of this sequence of SRAM Zeroid approaching, not Zeroid, the other Z word, Zeef. SRAM's Zeef approaching Earth is, for some reason, it has its landing legs down all the way, which is unique to this episode. I think we did see the landing legs in other episodes when it was landing, but never in flight as much as we do here, and I'm glad they didn't do it again, because it looked a bit odd here.
Strong enough to lift this whole ship 45 degrees.
Did we get it?
10-0.
The SRAM Zeef is through, and SRAM is a really nice design as an alien. Just this towering piece of bad news with this great big gaping mouth and the what's the green slime around his mouth? Is that, I want to say that's Swarfiga, I'm probably wrong. I seem to recall somebody talking about it reasonably recently, but that's a nice touch as well. And the fact that obviously none of these puppets were really capable of all that much. So with SRAM you have the sound effect of this roar that can shatter mountains. He looks properly tough, properly hard. Unfortunately, the episode is going to kind of undermine him rather catastrophically later on. But we'll get to that when we get there.
We're locked on. Closing fast.
In fact, this Zeef that SRAM is flying, it actually doesn't look like the regular Zeef. It seems shorter, it's silver, it doesn't quite have the same tail section. I'm going to have to come back and have a look at this, because this might be a completely different ship unique to this episode. Anyway, SRAM has now used his roar to...
Are you alright?
Yeah.
Knock Hawkwing, of course.
Some sitting duck.
They're attacking again?
Yes, Zero. It's called courage, bravery, guts. They're human attributes.
And even though we saw you demonstrating them in the previous episode, I'm gonna rub your nose in the fact that I don't think you have those qualities. Oh, Neinstein, you're just not very nice to the sweet robots. It's not fair. Another close-up on this ship of SRAM's.
Shooting, Hawkeye.
It's not a regular Zeef. I don't remember seeing it in any other episode. Maybe this is SRAM's own personal ship.
Aye,
I doubt it, but could be.
Great shooting, Hawkeye.
Okay, so the only reason that Zeef or whatever it is had those landing legs down was so when it finally crashed, they would immediately break off and just start flying all over the place. That's a very nice crash, followed by a very nice explosion. And, now the ship's on fire. Will SRAM be able to get out of there?
Located crash position. I'm moving in.
10-10.
Well, spoiler alert, since we know he appears in other episodes, he might be okay.
We'll drop the battle tank.
Yeah, let's do a bit of battle tanking. So Battlehawk is now flying out to the scene of the crash. And I know the Battlehawk design is not a very popular one. I kind of like it. In spite of the fact that I can appreciate it's just a reasonably ugly kind of
20
lump.
Go.
I don't know, I think maybe it's the whole sort of Thunderbird 2 aesthetic of the thing where it drops vehicles out from underneath. Here we have the lovely battle tank, which was always a favourite of mine. I like the battle tank.
Megazoids report. No life form. The battle tank is going in...
Oh yeah, that was an odd element of the battle tank as well. We have these two giant Zeroids called Megazoids just kind of built into the front, and they never had... they've got eyes, but that's it. They don't speak. They don't have names. They are...
Nothing, sir.
I mean, every time a battle tank gets blown up, nobody even mentions them, the poor things.
10-0.
And it was kind of... There are a couple of elements in this series that got dropped fairly quickly. We'll meet another one of them later. But having the Megazoids built into the battle tank meant the fact that the series kind of later ignored their existence, but they're still on the model,
close in Terrahawk.
was kind of strange.
I'm gonna check out that wreck myself.
So Tiger is now taking a look round the wreck of the Zeef. Green slime trails all over the place. And of course, the thing you do with green slime is as soon as you find it, you immediately dip your fingers in it. Because, at worst it's going to burn you, and at best it might turn you into a werewolf zombie man.
10-10. Battle tanks investigating.
The blood trail leads towards a cave where we find SRAM?
Something at the entrance to that cave.
Oh, there he is. Wonderful big old noise. Oh, and some beautiful close-up work on the battle tank as it... close-up shots as its caterpillar tracks are struggling to keep going, fighting against the force of the roar.
Call your dogs off, Neinstein.
Yeah, here we have... Who
are you? I am SRAM, Lord of Felony.
Something that's unique to this episode, they never did again.
You, Neinstein. Come to the cave, and come alone.
Which I think was a very wise decision not to do again. SRAM speaks in this episode. Not only does he speak, he's very, very chatty. And I have huge amount of respect for Robbie Stevens as a voice artist, and I can only think that the reason this doesn't work is that maybe he hadn't yet seen the SRAM puppet.
Seen it with my own eyes.
Who has just demolished a mountain, by the way.
Waiting.
Because I'm sure if he had seen the puppet before recording this episode, he would never have gone with
It's a trap.
This voice that just sounds so ordinary. He just sounds like a sort of slightly irate bank customer. It's just, Neinstein, hello, I'm in a cave. Rah, it doesn't fit the character at all.
Over here.
Especially after they've spent so much time building up his face and the roar, the heavy breathing.
Despicable Terrorhawks.
But this doesn't fit at all.
Inhuman human race.
Did Zelda send you?
Zelda leads the fight for survival. Survival of all that's not human.
I mean, SRAM could make a good sideline, I don't know, reading audiobooks or something. He has got a very pleasant speaking voice.
You will die with me, Neinstein.
I can't. I'm struggling to think of a more ill-fitting voice for any Gerry Anderson character than what SRAM is here. And I don't want to keep going on about it because it's not fair, but I'm really grateful that SRAM remained silent for the rest of the series. Just that heavy breathing and the roar was all you really needed. I think that might actually be the last of SRAM now. He's roared his last roar, and now he has died. But he's trapped Tiger in the cave with him. Had a bit of a cave in. Tiger is now stuck with the dead body of Chatterbox SRAM. Who knew that SRAM was such a great conversationalist? Oh yeah, this is very odd as well. The Battlehawk landing legs are mounted on these caterpillar tracks, which means it can actually drive forward. It's a very odd sight of the battle... Did I say battle tank or Battlehawk? I meant Battlehawk, the huge thing. It has a very cool drill in the front that we now see being used to chip away at the rocks that are blocking the cave. But yeah, seeing it just crawling along on those odd caterpillar track legs... That's another odd moment for this episode, and I think, again, it is unique to this episode. I could be wrong.
How far?
Not sure.
150 feet, Mom.
Tiger, we'll be through to you in about 15 minutes.
10-10.
Yeah, this is quite Thunderbirds, actually. Oh, it wasn't a drill. The Battlehawk has lowered this sort of conveyor belt thing that's sucking up all of the rocks, crushing them, and then spitting them out the back end of Battlehawk, which is a nice feature, but you'd struggle to think why an aircraft would need rock-crushing equipment built in. It's very Thunderbirdsy, though.
I still don't feel so good.
Your temperature is rising.
Here's another thing that's unique to the early episodes of Terrorhawks. Tiger has a little computer strapped to his left wrist called Tim, which seems to be some sort of medical monitor.
I can't understand it.
Who I think only speaks in this episode and Gold.
I'm picking up small quantities of an extremely toxic substance in your bloodstream.
Where is it coming from?
It's again an odd choice for the character to have
It seems to be entering
a medical monitor on his wrist that just tells him everything that's wrong with him. I get that maybe it's there as part of the whole
That's it.
data dump memory storage thing. But again, I don't know why he was thought up to begin with, and obviously
medical emergency.
The show didn't either because he was dropped extremely quickly.
Doctor's vital functions are failing.
How long has he got?
2, maybe 3 minutes.
Another chatty character that we
Another 45 feet, Mom.
never hear much from again.
Increase to maximum mass and gain as much acceleration as possible.
Yes, Mom.
You mean just like I did at the end of the last episode, Mom? Righto. Yeah, it's strange we have the same plot resolution 2 weeks on the trot here with Zero increasing his mass, smashing through and saving the day. I think, is he actually even
starting run
doing it to the same heroic music as he did last time? Or it might be a slightly different version, but it's very similar.
Maximum speed. Geronimo!
I suppose you can get away with it. This is only the 3rd episode. They didn't use the increased mass thing too much more after this. Not in a sort of saving the day kind of way.
I made it.
Great work, Sergeant Major.
Yeah, just odd that it comes the week after the previous episode was resolved in exactly the same way. But it's all worth it for this shot of Tiger coming back to consciousness, realising he's been saved by Zero, and of course Zero has a great big smile on his face.
I never thought I'd be glad to see your face, Zero.
So that's another plan of Zelda's down the toilet.
We have lost the battle.
She's put her feet up on one of the cubes. She's had enough for today.
Fought well, but lost. Now I must rest. My powers are exhausted.
Odd that she says that and then immediately uses her powers to do the... Zelda reclaims her own thing. She gets the Zeef wreckage back. And
Zelda reclaims her own.
There we go.
It's really scary.
Sir,
oh, God. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for that contribution. I'm really scared,
No,
Tiger. I'm going to wet myself.
Scared. And now that I'm scared,
bless Mary,
I'm not brave. The whole thing is totally beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, Mary hasn't quite got that sort of slight steely edge that she would get in later episodes. She feels very much like she feels very mumsy in the early episodes. Anyway, that was Thunder Roar. It's again, it's early episode weirdness. Lots of things that were very quickly dropped, and that don't fit what the show later became. And actually, it's just occurred to me, if Battlehawk actually need not have come out to the crash site at all, because Hawkwing shot SRAM's Zeef down, he crashed. That was basically the point where the Terrorhawks could have called it a day, because SRAM just crawled off to the cave and would have died regardless of whether or not Tiger and Mary went out there in Battlehawk. So the Terrorhawks actually, halfway through the episode could just have put their feet up and called it a day there. I suppose that's a negative point against the episode. Nothing really seemed to be accomplished. First appearance of SRAM, uncharacteristically chatty, but they'll address that in later episodes. Thank goodness.
Love a bit of Terrorhawks,
yes,
but maybe not early Terrorhawks quite so much.
Okay, yeah.
So Chris said there that he thought SRAM's voice was one of the worst voice decisions of possibly all Anderson history, and it's probably true because you've got this horrible, ugly monster who roars.
Yes.
And then he speaks a bit of RP.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? Strange decision.
I'm here to do terrible things on behalf of Zelda, Now, I just wanted to answer a question there. Chris had a bit of a query about what they used to make SRAM's drool.
Oh, right, yes.
And he said Swarfiga. Chris, you were half right. It was, in fact, a unique combination of Swarfiga and KY jelly.
Ah, You say unique.
You paused right there.
Yeah.
I was going to say other Swarthega thinning and lubricating jellies are available. So there we go. A bit gross, but Judy Priest likes to tell that that fab fact.
Perfect. Yeah, lovely.
But there you go. So that episode isn't the greatest for making you want to watch Terrorhawks,
sure.
but as Chris says, it improves and changes in tone so much from this point forward.
Yeah.
It's just a fun one. And actually, Shram's roar and all that kind of stuff and the effect it has and rock falls and a great bit with Zero coming to save the day. It's kind of worth it just for that. So there you go.
Yeah.
My love of Terrorhawks coming through even when it's a rubbish episode.
Absolutely, and why not? That's great. Thank you very much, Chris. Remember, you can catch his next randomiser in the next podcast. And don't forget, if you want to head on back, we've got 63 of them to listen to. I mean, they're all in there, from Secret Service to Torchy to UFO to Space Precinct to Captain Scarlet. Everything's in there now. Is there a series he hasn't touched yet?
I think we've got one of everything now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. So do have a listen back and see what you think. See if you agree with him.
You probably won't, which is part of the fun.
Absolutely, exactly. We don't mind that. Yeah, so there we go. In the meantime, I suppose all that remains for us to say is please do get in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Hashtag us on Twitter, Gerry Anderson Podcast. Join the Facebook group if you wish. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, to the Gerry Anderson newsletter over at gerryanderson.co.uk to take advantage of the massive September giveaway. Full details, I guess, will be on the website in due course. Or now.
Yes, in fact, they're already there because this thing launched a couple of days before release.
Yeah. Great.
So go and grab it, and the more you share and do all that sort of stuff from the main contest page, the more points you get and the higher your chance of winning the amazing prize package.
Lovely. Yes, and I just, if you out there, one of our listeners does win, it'd be great to hear from you and hear your thoughts when you get that enormous bundle arriving through the post.
Well, I mean, there's, I think, in total, including all the sort of, because I forgot to mention there's soundtracks too.
Right.
The new Captain Scarlet and Space Precinct soundtrack are thrown in as well.
Great.
It's something like 80 or 90 CDs, DVDs and Blu-rays or more, plus the Blu-ray. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Wow.
So you're going to love it, boys and girls.
Lovely.
Go and enter that. And look, Richard, I just thought I'd finish off by saying I had quite a few emails this week from lots of people who listen to the podcast and they're not on Facebook.
Sure.
They're not on Twitter. They don't like social media, which is totally fine. In which case, if you're on the Gerry Anderson newsletter, you're already in the best place to get all the latest news. You're not missing out.
No.
But if you're not, like we just said, do pop along and sign up. And if you want a shortcut to signing up and being in with a chance of winning the prize, then you can sign up via the big giveaway. So just head along to gerryanderson.co.uk immediately at the end of the end theme and maybe our post theme chat.
Yes.
And do that.
Yes.
That's all I have to say. I shall go away now.
Oh, well, so shall I.
Good. Let's both go.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
It is a massive prize package.
That's huge.
You know, all the stuff is coming to my house as well, sort of collate and send it out from. It's going to be a huge box.
By a skip.
Yeah,
Probably.
a skip.
Yeah.
It is quite scary how much stuff there is.
No, it's extraordinary.
So, yeah. And unfortunately, Richard, I'm really sorry, but you can't enter.
What?
Yeah.
What? Well, I was just literally about to go sign up for the newsletter.
I know, but, you know...
because I'm an employee.
You're too close to things. Employees, contractors, etc. It's not, it's not fair. We don't want to give you an unfair advantage.
I don't ever remember signing a contract, Jamie.
Verbal contract.
Oh, I see. Fine. By the way, I do have an apology to make.
Oh, no. What have you done?
Well, I know you keep at me to try and get some guests for the podcast, for the interviews.
Oh, yes. Yeah, how's that going? Because you just seen Beth Chalmers, and there's Wendy Craig and Ross Kemp.
I was hoping to see Beth Chalmers, so I went away on holiday for the bank holiday weekend, just gone, as I do every year, with the same group of friends, at a big old country house in Norfolk. We have a lovely old time, and 9 times out of 10, Beth Chalmers is there.
Mm-hmm.
This time she wasn't.
Is this the 1 out of 10?
Yes.
Now, is that because she'd heard you wanted to interview her?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Apparently she was in Edinburgh, so couldn't make it this year. So I'm afraid I missed out on a chance of an interview. I mean, I do know her well enough to drop her a line and say, let's meet up for a coffee in town one day, and I could do it there. So might well happen. Yeah, I'll try my best.
Okay. Well, look, Richard, I think if right now you could stop recording, leave the house, go out into Cookham, and find a celebrity to interview immediately.
Okay.
We're kind of getting a bit desperate now. So
yeah, I'm off then. Right, I'll see you.
Okay.
Is that Wendy Craig I can see in the
Good
chemist?
luck. Yeah,
Wendy!
quick, get her. Go, get her.
Wendy!
Get her.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?